Joining us is Mike Holmgren, the president of the Cleveland Browns. Mike, welcome to the show. Longtime admirer.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It's nice to be on.
I was a huge Bill Walsh fan, you should know. I refer to him all. I'm offensively oriented in my football background. The viewers all know that have followed me for years. The quarterback position, I thought he was an offensive genius. You're a product of him, and I welcomed your comments when you first came to Cleveland, Mike, about the importance of that position. No matter what the climate, certainly you proved it at Green Bay. And you said you do whatever you need to do if you're convinced your guy is in that draft. So I take it Whedon is that guy?
Well, you know what? We talked about it long and hard, and we were going to try and build that position up every year. And when I said that when I first came, I meant it. I think you can build your team year by year, but it's tough to find the quarterback. But once you find the quarterback and you get the right one, then really the sky's the limit. So we like this young man. Now, I also made the statement to him, and the guys in the locker room now know it. We're not going to hand him anything, but certainly we liked what we saw, and that's why we did what we did.
There are some reports, comment what you can on this. There are some reports that had Kendall Wright been available, the Browns would have taken him. But then that kind of discounts the philosophy of going for that most important position, in this case, Whedon.
Yeah, well, we like Kendall Wright a lot, and getting a wide receiver was also part of our plans, if possible, in the draft. Prior to Kendall going within the pick in front of us, we were in discussions in the draft room, quite honestly, about should we do this? Should we wait? Should we go wait until 37? Will Whedon be there at 30? Those kind of conversations. But then the decision was made for us, which happens often in the draft. We said, if we can sit here, we'll never know. Honestly, Bruce, we'll never know what we would have done. But we were in those discussions. But I just didn't, and Tom didn't either, Tom Heckert, and neither did Pat Shermer. We didn't want to lose the quarterback. And anytime you wait, even though you have it figured out, at least you think you have it figured out, you always run the risk of someone getting up in there and getting the player you want.
Mike, I've been around the block quite a few years here in this business, so when it comes to rumors, I take it with a grain of salt. There were some reports that you guys told Colt that you wouldn't draft the quarterback early like you did. Number one, is that true? Number two, regardless, how did he take it when you talked to him after the Whedon pick?
Well, I can tell you, Bruce, we did not do that. We did not have that conversation with Colt. We would not have that conversation with any of our players. They play for us, but they're not involved in who we pick, really. Now, after or when we decided to make the pick of the quarterback, then, as I have done in years past, we do try and contact and the player who plays the position, particularly Colt, who certainly deserves this kind of respect, saying, okay, we're going to do this, but listen, it's a competition, let's just go after it. And we tried to contact him at that time. But prior to, no, we never had that conversation with him.
How did he take it?
You know what? Like I expected him to. He kind of groused about it a little bit, and then he just said, well, you know what, though? I'm going to do whatever I can do to be the player I should be. And that's the way that I've come to expect that from him. I really like Colt McCoy. I think anyone that knows me knows that. And I think last year, he got beat up a little bit. We didn't have very much of a running game to help him. I mean, there are reasons that happened last year. But my job also is to make the team as good as I can possibly make it, as soon as I can make it good, and so we had to pick the quarterback. Now we'll have a healthy competition if the four quarterbacks remain with us, and that's what I expect. He's handled it beautifully.
Mike, as soon as we picked Weed in the national media speculating that we were going to trade Colt McCoy, I've told the viewers, the fans, hey, I'd like to keep McCoy for a lot of reasons. I love his attitude. He's making a lot less money economically. It's sensible for the Browns to keep him. And I'm still not convinced about Seneca Wallace's sincerity after the statements he made concerning not helping Colt last year. Convince me about Seneca Wallace that he's worth keeping over McCoy, or is there room for both?
Well, I think I like all the quarterbacks, otherwise they wouldn't be here. And I know Seneca the best of any of them, I guess, because he played for me in Seattle for a long time. And I think after the season was over and he played the last few ball games, I think what he said would be the same comment a lot of players would say. You know, he believes in himself. He believes he should be the starter. I get that. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have him on the team. You know, that kind of attitude I need. The other thing that gets overblown, Bruce, really is this idea of mentoring or helping the younger player. You know, that's a nice thought, but in reality, that doesn't happen very often. In fact, most players, they're competing and they want to play. Now, they're civil and they get along and all those kind of things. But honestly, I'm going to coach the player. I don't want another player coaching the player. I'm going to coach the player. So that got blown out of proportion a little bit, too. Seneca Wallace is a good guy and a good football player. So we'll just see where this takes us. It's going to be an interesting thing, and it's going to be talked about a lot and written about a lot, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Mike, hopefully Travis Benjamin can stretch the field for us. He has blazing speed, no question about it. There's questions about his height. But you kind of touched on this earlier in your comments about the Browns being interested in Kendall Wright, but was it that you guys, the hierarchy of the team, feel that if indeed you're right about this quarterback, he will make the current receiving core better?
Well, I think that's one thing, yes. But in all honesty, you know, we talked a lot about getting a receiver in the draft. You know, in our preparation and our planning, you know, we thought there was a chance we could get one, and we liked a handful of receivers. When those guys came off the board, then we went to plan B, you might say. You know, we knew we needed a tackle. We knew we needed some defensive linemen and to help our defense and so on, and linebackers. There were other areas. Okay, but I wouldn't have even thought about doing that if I didn't like the receivers we have. Now, what Benjamin does for us is give us a different type of receiver than we have. We have bigger guys who can run, but this guy is a little jackrabbit, fast guy. So we'll see how we can use him with that particular group. But here, I would say this for fans of the team: look for Massaquoi to have really step out this year and have a breakout year. I think he was banged around a little bit hurt when he came into training camp last year. There were some reasons he's had the seasons he's had, but he is a good player, and he should be good and should be up there statistically.
Mike, I did not think that Mangini and Dable knew how to use Josh Cribbs offensively. I'll cut Pat some slack because we didn't have a preseason last year or training camp, but I've always contended this guy is most dangerous when he sees what's in front of him, just like when he receives punts and kicks. That's when he can do the most damage. Are you guys looking to utilize him in a more effective way on the offense this year?
Well, it's an interesting question, and it's something we talk about a lot, and I know the coaches do. Here you have Josh Cribbs, who is a superb athlete, and we all know what he can do as a kickoff and punt return guy, and he's so valuable, even with the new kickoff rule, in that respect. I think last year he played more snaps from center, and it took away a little bit from his return guy. He's human, and so he gets tired and things like that. So how we use him is going to be hugely important, and it's a thin line. I mean, how much do you use him if he's going to be that valuable? And he covers kicks on special teams. The other thing, Josh is, bless his heart, when he's playing wide receiver, is a little bit like at the playground. You know, he just goes, "I'm open, and I went over here because I was open. Throw me the ball." And sometimes you got to be a little more precise than that. And he made great strides last year, and I would like to see him improve in that area this year. There's no question he's a tough guy, and there's no question he's valuable to us. But that's a tough to divide it up and to say, okay, how much is he going to play? With special teams, we know he's going to do that. How much will he play on the offensive side of the ball? We got a number, limit his snaps just a little bit so he can be most effective on special teams.
Mike, the fans have second-guessed you guys on not picking up any free agents, big-name free agents, particularly at wide receiver or skill positions. And I contend, especially after a couple interviews I conducted with Tom, that you guys may be waiting to add a piece or two when you feel we are that close from being a Super Bowl championship contender. Am I wrong?
No, I think that that's stated very well, and I know Tom believes this. We were in the hunt on a couple of free agent wide receivers and just didn't get them. We're outbid a little bit, and that can happen with some of the teams in our league. I mean, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter what you do; it's pretty tough to outbid some of the teams, and that's kind of what happened there. But having said that, I think our philosophy on building the team, we've made no bones about this. Foundationally, build it through the draft, and then be very, very selective, and not make mistakes on free agency. I mean, you're going to spend an X amount of dollars.
Right.
You can't make too many mistakes.
Right.
And you can look at other teams in the league that have popped hard and run the free agent pool hard, and it hasn't paid off for them. Why? Because the grass always looks greener. We've really stressed signing our own free agents first because we know them the best, and then selectively we're going to get a couple guys. We got a couple defensive linemen this year that are really going to help us.
As far as Fujita and this 3-game suspension, what can you comment on for us as far as the bounty? If you penalize one of these players, you'll get a kick out of this. A couple of Browns fans said, well, why should the Browns be penalized? I said, well, wait a minute. Don't you think that it's the same with Hargrove with Green Bay? And he said, well, I guess. And then I said, well, look, if you penalize one of these players, you got to penalize all of them. Certainly the coaches are paying the ultimate penalty. I don't know if Williams will ever get back in the NFL. What can you tell us about the bounty?
Well, I have not talked to Scott. I've read the same things you have. I talked to him prior to all this taking place, and I love Scott Fujita, and I think he's a very committed, dedicated football player, a great leader for us, and I believe him. Now, having said that, this bounty business is there's no place for it in our league. There isn't, and so I will have to side with the commissioner and the decisions there because I didn't like it when I heard about it, and I still don't like it, and we have to get rid of it because the players, they're at risk enough. They are at risk enough when they play without having someone else making it a little harder that way. But as far as Scott's, I'm going to wait until any comments I have, I got to wait and talk to Scott first.
Mike, couple more questions. I'll let you slide. I know you're making the rounds. I really applauded the organization on the Childress hire. Now we have 2 head coaches as our coordinators. Can you say now that he was your target last year, and that's why you had these extra responsibilities for Pat because you couldn't get him last year?
Well, that was one thing. We had 2 or 3 fellows that we were looking for to be coordinator last year, and it didn't happen. They went to other teams, and there were reasons for that as well. There are connections there. There's always reasons for coaching moves, and so I really presented to Pat. Listen, unless you get the guy you really want, and he had just come off of coordinating for the Rams before we hired him. That I said, you have a veteran quarterback coach in Mark Whipple. You have a veteran offensive staff for the most part. You could probably give them some responsibilities and coordinate it yourself until you get the right guy, and that's what happened. Unfortunately, it was very tough last year because of the lockout and those types of things. So I know Pat is excited about having Brad here, as I am, and I've known Brad forever, and he's really a good coach, and so he'll that alone will make us better.
Mike, some of the fans are concerned that with your 5-year contract, and that clock is ticking, of course, but that you're in and out of here. Reassure the fans how committed you are to turning this thing around in Cleveland with these starving Browns supporters.
Well, you know what? I don't know how many different ways I can say it, to be honest with you. But, my wife, when we moved here, we made a commitment, and I made a commitment to the owner. And he's been wonderful with me. And I made a commitment to the players downstairs. And, anything more than 5 years, I'll have to wait and see. But, I mean, certainly I signed a contract. I believe in contracts. And quite honestly, I really want to see, before I even think about riding my motorcycle off into the sunset, I want to see us turn it around and get going in the right direction and give this city and the fans here in this state a team they can really be proud of, and that's going to happen. And so I'm committed. I am committed. Cleveland is our home right now, and that's how I look at it, and so that's what I want to have happen.
They've got me doing the show at the Browns golf outing coming up. I think it's in early June. You going to be out there that day?
I don't know. Since I have my foot operated on, I'm not a very good golfer anymore. I wasn't really good to start with, but I'll try and be there.
Drive around in a cart and check out the sights. It's a beautiful place. And, Mike, if that's the case, if you're there, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. Thanks for the time.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Mike Holmgren, the president of the Cleveland Browns. All right, we'll be right